The second month after my boyfriend disappeared, I saw him on the street. He was arrogantly talking to someone. Disappeared? Of course, it was an act. My girlfriend is too clingy, so I had to teach her a lesson. I had Galen help cover for me, and she didn't suspect a thing. Galen is his good buddy. I pretended I didn't hear anything. When I got home, a man gently hugged me from behind. Any clues about him today? No. I kissed Galen, pretending to be regretful. He might really be dead. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. The second month after Edward Phipson disappeared, I unexpectedly saw him. He was with his friends, still looking as arrogant as ever. Edward, since you disappeared, even we rarely see you. No way around it. Edward said nonchalantly. Lydia is too clingy and controlling, I had to teach her a lesson. How did you come up with the idea of disappearing? I taught him. The girl next to Edward raised her eyebrows happily. With his brain, could he come up with such a brilliant idea? He had to rely on me. Yes, you're the best. Edward smiled dotingly. I recognized that girl. Olivia Swales, the only girl in Edward's small group. But, playing it this big, won't Lydia suspect anything? I had Galen help me cover, no problem. Everyone suddenly understood. No wonder, with Galen as your backup, who would suspect anything? It has to be Galen, the reliable young master. Olivia snorted lightly, it's simply because Lydia is dumb. I waited for Edward to refute her. But what I got was his soft coaxing. Exactly, she's not as smart and beautiful as you. Everyone around started to cheer. As if they were used to this. Edward, why don't you just get together with Olivia? Why look for a girlfriend? I don't mess around with friends. Get lost, I wouldn't be interested in you either. They despised each other. But under the table, their legs were brushing against each other intermittently. In the end, someone asked. Disappearing forever isn't a solution, Edward. When do you plan to go back? Wait a little longer. Edward said confidently. I'll go back when Lydia goes crazy looking for me. I originally planned to go to the police station today. Now I've changed my mind. I went and bought my favorite snacks. Then I had a wonderful SPA. By the time I got home, it was already evening. The lights in the house were off. I thought Galen had already left. Just as I changed into my slippers, I was suddenly hugged from behind. My body stiffened, and I asked, "Did you drink?" Galen didn't respond directly. "What did you do today?" "You didn't answer my calls." "Sorry, I didn't check my phone." "Any clues about Edward Phipson?" "Alas, no." My tone was full of regret. Galen hugged me tighter, his breath on my neck. "It's all my fault." If I hadn't insisted on taking him hiking, he wouldn't have disappeared. He seemed to be genuinely remorseful. If it weren't for his warm tongue brushing against my earlobe. Galen is one of Edward's good buddies. After Edward disappeared, they played both sides. Galen was in charge of playing the remorseful party. But it seemed Edward didn't know. This buddy of his way of showing remorse, was a bit special. Galen Winder was a young master born in a wealthy family. His family background even better than Edward's. In front of outsiders, he was aloof and unapproachable. I thought so too. In private, I had barely spoken a few words with Galen. After graduating from university, I found a job. By coincidence, the company turned out to be one of the Winder family's enterprises. Galen became my young boss. The distance between us grew even greater. I started to get familiar with Galen about a month ago. I suddenly received news that Edward had gone missing and was devastated for quite some time. Galen, feeling guilty as the instigator, said he would take care of me on Edward's behalf for a while. But he was being a bit too meticulous. He insisted on personally preparing and serving my 3 meals a day. I felt very embarrassed and said, "Galen, you can't be blamed for this. Edward has always loved outdoor activities. Even without your invitation, he would have planned to climb that mountain himself. His parents haven't said anything, so I definitely won't blame you either. You go and handle your own business. I really don't need your help. Put down that piece of clothing. I dashed forward and snatched the underwear from his hand. I'll wash these myself. Galen looked serious. I can wash them cleaner. Are you sure you don't want my help? Absolutely not. I was too embarrassed at the time and didn't notice. He hid his hands behind his back and rubbed them regretfully. How did I discover Galen's other side? It was probably one night when I got up to use the bathroom. I found that Galen was still lingering at my house and hadn't left. I decided to ask him about it. Just as I approached the crack of the guest room door, I saw him. He was bare-chested, holding one of my lace camisoles in one hand. The other hand was obscured by the cabinet. In the dim light, Galen's back muscles were taut and the veins in his arms stood out. I was startled by the scene in front of me and couldn't help but make a sound. Galen instantly turned his head. The moment he saw me, he tilted his head back, and a low, trembling sound came from his throat. I discovered Galen Winder's secret. And that's when he took over. I knew I should push him away. I shouldn't indulge his hugs and kisses. But I couldn't control myself. Probably because, when I was nearly crying my eyes out over Edward, only Galen silently stayed by my side. And more so because I had long suspected that Edward Phipson's disappearance was a scam. How could a son go missing and his biological parents not report it, even stopping me from reporting it? How could a close friend's disappearance not elicit any reaction from his group, who continued to party and revel in luxury? These doubts were finally confirmed today. All of them had conspired to put on a show for me. Even Galen was an important part of this act. Back to the present. Galen still wouldn't let go of me. I said, somewhat wearily, "Have you cooked?" "I'm starving." "It's ready, all your favorites." "Heat it up." "Okay." Galen immediately went to heat up the food. He didn't think there was anything wrong with me speaking to him in a commanding tone. After dinner, I took off my inner clothes and threw them to him. "Go wash these." Galen hesitated. "Can I?" "Yeah, I'm tired today, too lazy to wash them myself." He acted like he had received an award, holding the clothes and heading to the bathroom. I knew it would take him at least 20 minutes to come out. After successfully sending Galen away, I unlocked the phone he had left on the table. Sure enough, Edward had created a new SIM card and kept in touch with them all along. In the first few days, Edward would still ask about my situation. "How's Lydia?" "Galen, she cried for a long time today." "Edward, it's fine, she's always like this, crying and whining, annoying as hell." "Thanks for keeping an eye on her." "Galen, when do you plan to end this farce?" "Edward, huh?" "Galen, if you don't like her, just break up, no need to mess with her." "Edward, it's not that I don't like her. I just think she's too controlling, not letting me go out drinking at night." "Olivia's right, let her suffer a bit and she'll fall in line." Galen didn't reply. A ding sound, a group chat message popped up, catching my attention. The chat group name was Princess Olivia and her 3 servants. Princess Olivia, fresh news, Lydia Medwin cried again yesterday, a colleague saw her. Servant number 1 Edward, I heard about it too. Princess Olivia, see, my method works. Edward, you owe me a meal. This was the group chat of Edward and Olivia's small circle. There were 4 guys in the group. 3 of them were numbered as servants. The extra one was Galen. Only he used his real name. I had heard Edward mentioned before. Galen joined this small group halfway through. The specific reason was unknown. I guessed it was probably because the Winder family's business was large and involved investments. Given Edward and the others' nature, they actively pulled him in. Galen rarely spoke in the group. It was almost always Edward chatting with Olivia. Servant number 1 Edward. Owe you a meal? Haven't I treated you enough? I even gave you a bank card, and for this, Lydia used to make a fuss. Princess Olivia, just thinking about it makes me laugh. What's our relationship? We've been friends since childhood. Who does she think she is? Still has the nerve to be jealous. I think she's just jealous that I have so many male friends. Edward sent a protecting the princess sticker. All right, don't be mad. From now on, you can pick first from the gifts meant for her, okay, princess? Humph, that sounds more like it. I felt disgusted. Scrolling up further. They chatted almost every day. One might think they were flirting. It turned out that every time Edward was late for a date, it was related to Olivia. Even when I was sick, alone in the hospital getting in for, he was with Olivia Swales. Even the Valentine's Day gift he gave me was what Olivia had picked out and discarded. Another new message popped up. Edward sent a private message to Galen. I just remembered something. I mimicked Galen's terse style. What? 2 months ago, on Olivia's birthday night, I got drunk and stayed the night at her place. Don't let this slip. Remember, that night, I was with you. I slowly typed out 4 words. What really happened between you two? Edward, ugh, didn't we agree not to bring it up again? Olivia and I both pretend nothing happened that night. Otherwise, how could we stay friends? Galen came out of the bathroom. The clothes were already washed. His expression was calm, but the corners of his eyes were still slightly red. I smiled at him. How's your hand? Galen was taken aback. Even though I had already discovered his secret and endured his hugs and kisses, we had never taken the next step. Did anything get on that? I pointed at my clothes. I washed everything clean, you can check. Don't worry, I'm not disgusted with you. I looked Galen up and down. At 6'2", with nearly perfect body proportions, he was far superior in appearance to Edward. I might need you to wash a dress later. What? Galen looked down at me. He still didn't understand what I meant. I had already taken off my clothes, stood on tiptoe, and kissed him. Galen, Edward might really be dead. I said, feeling aggrieved. Will you stay with me tonight? Since that day, as long as I beckoned, Galen would come. We had an extraordinary understanding. Better than with Edward, Galen cared a lot about my feelings. So in terms of experience, it was even better and more enjoyable than with Edward. Besides, their physiques and stamina were on completely different levels. I started to regret not taking this step earlier. Why waste time on a dead man like Edward Phipson? Galen didn't notice anything unusual. Because I had deleted those chat records. Whenever I had the chance, I would borrow his phone to check the group chat. These days, I stopped looking for clues about Edward. Edward was getting anxious. He mentioned everyone in the group chat. What's going on? Why did Lydia suddenly stop looking? A friend said, Edward, don't worry, she might be tired lately and out of energy. Impossible. Lydia would look for me no matter how tired or busy she was. Should I go back? Olivia, hold on. Let her dangle a bit longer. If you go back now, it'll be all for nothing. Edward, no, I have to go back and check tomorrow. Olivia, Edward, are you out of your mind? The plan I worked so hard on, and you're not following it, what do you take me for? As a woman, don't you think I understand her little tricks? She probably heard something, trying to force you to show up. Watch me deal with her. Edward was silent for a moment. In the end, he still complied. All right, I'll listen to you. Even so, Edward was still worried. That night, he secretly called Galen. When the call came in, I was just straddling Galen. It showed as an unknown call. I answered it and handed it to Galen's ear. Hey, buddy, I just couldn't stop worrying and wanted to check in. What's been up with Lydia lately? Galen thought I couldn't hear the voice on the phone. He mumbled, she's doing pretty well. Damn, Galen, what's up with your voice? Is there a woman with you? How did you figure that out? I can tell right away, you're happy. Am I interrupting something? Bring her out to meet us someday. Edward didn't finish his sentence. I suddenly spoke up, saying to Galen, are you done? Focus. There was a moment of silence on the phone. When he spoke again, Edward's voice had changed. Galen, who are you with right now? Galen woke up from the tumultuous sea of desire. He quickly turned down the volume on his phone, his voice returning to its usual calm. It's a girl you don't know. But why does she sound like Lydia? You misheard. Anyway, I'm hanging up. Don't disturb me. Galen ended the call. He turned over and hugged me, his voice full of affection. Let's continue, I'll be very focused from now on. No, continue. Aren't you afraid Edward will come rushing over immediately? Galen froze. I continued, he should be hiding in that house in the suburbs, right? Driving over would only take half an hour. You heard it? To be honest, I've even met him already. Galen's expression became complex. After a long time, he processed everything. So you knew all along that he didn't disappear? Yes. Aren't you angry? I was, but I quickly got over it. Getting angry with someone like that is just bad for my own health. The day I ran into Edward, I didn't rush forward to argue with him. I didn't shout or scream. I didn't question him about why he deceived me. He was already rotten to that extent. What could you expect from a lying man's mouth? Some truth. I looked at Galen, and you? Don't you have anything to say? Galen was the only one in their small group who had opposed the fake disappearance plan. I was really curious about what drove him to finally agree to help. I owed him a favor. Galen seemed to have unloaded a heavy burden, and he told me everything. Edward did me a big favor, and he used that to morally blackmail me into helping him. But no matter what, I shouldn't have lied to you. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I'm very grateful that you were part of this play. What do you mean? I pinched Galen's chin and smiled. Do you want to betray them and become my accomplice? Just as I expected. Edward was indeed not at ease and came over personally. At 1 a.m, he quietly entered my house. This house was rented by me, and Edward's fingerprints could unlock it. I was sleeping deeply in bed. The bed was clean. There were no men's items in the bedroom. On the bedside table, there were tissues stained with tears and a photo of us. Edward felt reassured. But he didn't know I was pretending to sleep. The camera on the table would record his every move. As long as he dared to touch me, Galen, who was watching the surveillance in the basement, would rush up immediately. Edward dispelled his doubts and left. He went to meet Galen. They met in a convenience store. Sorry, buddy, I misunderstood you earlier, Edward said. It's okay. Where's your girl? She's tired and didn't want to come out. Her voice really sounded like Lydia's. You must bring her out next time. Galen made no comment. Edward looked a bit haggard. Galen, do you think I should go back? Why do you think that? I haven't been sleeping well lately. Edward took a sip of wine, his nose and eyes turning red. When I was with Lydia, I always felt she was too controlling. Now that I'm free, I can't get used to it. I haven't been able to sleep for several nights. I heard Lydia hasn't been looking for me this week. I'm really scared that this will backfire. Galen comforted him. Don't worry, she hasn't given up on you. She even wanted to file a case recently. She can't file a case, that would expose everything. I know, I stopped her. She's been feeling unwell this week and hasn't had the energy. Is she okay? Just a cold, nothing serious. Edward sighed. I regret making Lydia suffer so much. Don't say that. Galen calmly persuaded him. Think about how she used to stop you from going out to drink at night and always fought with you over Olivia. This time, you can make her behave. Then listen to Olivia's wails, keep her hanging for a while longer. After Edward left, Galen took his phone out of his chest pocket. How was it? He asked me nervously. Great, you did everything as I said. I looked at the video camera, smiling slightly. Come back, I'll give you a reward. The task I gave Galen was simple. Keep Edward steady and continue with their disappearance plan. Because I had prepared a big surprise for Edward. 3 days later, it was a Saturday. I invited a group of friends to my home. They were all old classmates of Edward and me. The house was carefully decorated by me. In the middle hung a photo of Edward Phipson. accompanied by 4 large black words. Edward Phipson farewell party. The friends were all startled. Lydia, what's going on? I was dressed in black, looking haggard and sad. Edward has been missing for over a month. Why didn't you tell us earlier? I didn't want to disturb your lives, and his parents didn't allow it. Then, he is still not found yet. Everyone gasped. Oh my, it's been over a month and he hasn't been found, doesn't that mean? I heard the best rescue time is the golden 72 hours. After 72 hours, the chances of survival are very small. Listening to their discussions, my tears fell uncontrollably. Stop talking, Lydia is already so sad. Sigh, they had such a good relationship, Lydia must be devastated. Everyone comforted me for a while. An old classmate asked, do the police have any clues? I shook my head sadly, no report was filed. Why not report it? His parents didn't agree, they wanted to use the family's resources to search. No wonder, the Phipson family is wealthy, they probably don't want this to be exposed, it wouldn't look good. That's right. Edward's parents had respectable and glamorous jobs. Exposing this kind of thing would not be good at all. While wiping the tears from the corners of my eyes, I looked up into the distance. At the phone that was live streaming, I had already informed my friends. Since some classmates were far away and couldn't attend, I simply started a live stream so they could participate remotely. No one had any objections. The netizens were also very enthusiastic. It was rare to see a farewell party being live-streamed. A large number of viewers quickly flooded into the live room. Many people who didn't know Edward Phipson would still post a farewell message or light a candle. Of course, it also sparked some discussions. How could his parents refuse to report him missing? A netizen questioned. Yeah, shouldn't they seek help from the police immediately? I looked it up. The Phipson family is pretty powerful, maybe they have their own rescue team. Disappeared in Snow Mountain? Impossible, my family lives nearby, and I haven't seen any rescue teams searching recently. I ignored these discussions. Don't worry. The other protagonist of this play would soon appear. Sure enough. Half an hour later, Olivia Swales kicked open my front door. Lydia Medwin, what are you up to now? She burst in and tore down all the unlucky white cloths and photos. Edward isn't dead at all, what are you doing? A tear still hung at the corner of my eye. I was shocked. What did you say? Edward isn't dead. You idiot! Oh, she didn't know yet, everything was being broadcast live. Every word and action of hers would be recorded. The reason she was able to get here so quickly was because I had Galen notify her. Olivia, I know you and Edward are good friends, but you don't have to comfort me like this. It's been over a month, I've already prepared myself mentally. After saying that, I cried even harder. More and more people were joining the live stream. The comments were getting more and more lively. Is this woman crazy? Who storms in and yells at the grieving person? I know her, she's the heiress of the Swales family. Hey everyone, I live in the same city. Which neighborhood is this? I'm going to support the grieving person. Olivia was completely oblivious to these comments. I said Edward Phipson isn't dead, and he isn't. Stop doing these unlucky things. Where's the proof? I asked. He was with me this morning, alive and well. As soon as she said this, the whole room fell silent. Everyone looked at her with strange eyes. I forced a smile. Olivia, you shouldn't joke about this. Don't believe me? Look at this. Olivia showed a selfie on her phone. Edward had gone to buy her breakfast this morning. Olivia was wearing pajamas, and the two were squeezed together in the frame, almost touching. Lydia, to tell you the truth, he pretended to disappear because of you. Olivia crossed her arms and looked down at me. Because you're too annoying, Edward couldn't shake you off, so he had to use this method to avoid you. My face turned pale, I could barely stand. I had to lean on a classmate beside me for support. You're saying, he didn't want to break up, so he used this kind of silent treatment to deceive me? Don't blame him, blame yourself. Your parents are both ordinary working class people, right? What makes you think you're worthy of Edward? Being dumped was only a matter of time. I did some quick calculations. It was the critical moment. I steadied my mind and asked, Olivia Swales, what exactly is your relationship with him? Friends, childhood friends. I was skeptical, really? But as his girlfriend, I know nothing about his situation. Yet are you two really just ordinary friends? Olivia's words had already sparked the dissatisfaction of the netizens. What's wrong with being working class? Damn, my parents are also working class, and my grandparents are farmers. Ugh, in this day and age, there are still such snobby heiresses. After I finished speaking, the comments became even more lively. Gossip is human nature. Olivia replied with a displeased look. Do you understand what childhood friends mean? He's willing to share everything with me. I'm the closest person to him, aside from his parents. A friend nearby couldn't bear it anymore. You two have no boundaries. Isn't she just a mistress, hiding under the guise of friendship and thinking she's noble? Disgusting, Lydia, he's not worth you. All right, that's enough for now. Olivia's scene could come to an end for now. I used the excuse of being tired to send everyone away. Then I turned off the live stream. Next, the male lead was about to make his entrance. The reason Olivia came first was that Edward happened to be out of town today. Thanks to Galen, I was able to track everyone's movements precisely. Edward had seen the live stream. He called me countless times. Sent countless apology texts. At 9 in the evening, Edward finally rushed back to City A. He didn't even rest, coming to find me in a hurry. But he didn't come alone. He brought Galen with him. As soon as he saw me, he broke down in tears. Lydia, I really didn't mean it. I was just in a hurry and agreed to this plan. I looked at him coldly. You've been having fun for over a month? I was in pain. Edward simply knelt in front of me. At first, I just wanted to teach you a lesson, to make you more obedient. But later, I couldn't sleep every day. All I could think about was you. All you could think about was me, yet it didn't stop you from buying breakfast for another woman. Edward was stunned. I only see Olivia as a friend. If you don't like her, I won't interact with her anymore. But I think you two are a better match. No, Edward shook his head quickly. I don't like her at all. She's been spoiled by her family since she was a child, and has a bad temper. I've always tolerated her. Lydia, you're the only one in my heart. Stop. Edward Phipson, you disgust me. Can you just get lost? I didn't give in, and Edward became more anxious. He quickly turned to Galen for help. Galen, help me persuade her. Me? You helped me lie, you're responsible too, tell her quickly. Galen didn't say anything, he walked up to me. Suddenly, he lowered his head and gave me a gentle kiss. Lydia, you look beautiful even when you're scolding someone. Edward was completely devastated. He would rather doubt his own eyes than believe what had just happened. Until I took the initiative to wrap my arms around Galen's waist. Edward's eyes turned red with anger, and he swung his fist, ready to hit Galen. Of course, he was no match for Galen. Galen dodged and still managed to protect me. Edward cursed angrily, I helped you, how can you steal my woman? First of all, Lydia is not anyone's woman, she belongs to herself. Secondly, you said yourself that as long as I helped you with this lie, we would be even. I did that. However, the way Galen did it was quite special. But you can't take advantage of the situation. Don't you think you're despicable? Despicable? Yes, I am. Galen laughed. His peach blossom eyes narrowed into a beautiful arc. Edward Phipson, from the moment you decided to deceive her, this despicable person, was ready to take your place. In the end, Edward was driven away by Galen. I also deleted his fingerprint unlock from my access control system. He stood downstairs all night. Coincidentally, it rained all night too. Edward was drenched, looking particularly heartfelt and sad. But I only felt disgusted. Thinking of how he had slept with Olivia made me even more disgusted. In the evening, I asked Galen to carry me to the window. The curtains and lights would cast our shadows. In the heat of the moment, Galen bit my shoulder with his sharp teeth. Through a gap in the curtain, he looked down. He seems to be going crazy. Let him go crazy. Galen trembled slightly. Lydia, I'm so happy. Why? I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Edward indeed went crazy. He kept calling us and even ran up to bang on the door. In the end, I called the police, and he finally stopped. After a night, the live broadcast was still fermenting. Thanks to Olivia Swales. Originally, our live broadcast didn't have that much attention. But she cursed a few sentences at the working class, making the live broadcast known to everyone. Olivia's family background and job were thoroughly exposed. The Swales Company's public relations had just issued a statement. Someone released solid evidence of Olivia Swales and Edward Phipson's affair. The video was particularly clear. Edward had drunk a lot, supported by Olivia. He joked, "Let me stay at your place tonight, aren't you afraid?" Olivia rolled her eyes at him. "We've known each other for so many years, who's afraid of whom? TSK, you have quite the courage. If you have the guts, try it later and see who begs for mercy first." The two bickered as they entered the room. At this point, the person filming hadn't left. Until ambiguous noises came from inside the room. A voice off-screen teased, "Hey, they're quite intense." Except for the two people involved, all other voices were processed. So, it was impossible to tell who recorded the video or who was speaking. But I knew. It must have been someone from their small group. Because Edward only played with them. And only they had the opportunity to record up close. It was Olivia's birthday that day, and Galen was absent due to other matters. Excluding him, it could only be the remaining two guys. That seemingly indestructible small group actually hid various discontents and conflicts. After the affair was confirmed, the scumbag and the mistress were pushed to the forefront. Edward's family ran a clothing brand. Consumers rushed to return their purchases. The company suffered huge losses. At this time, Edward did something. He put all the blame on Olivia, clearing himself completely. He claimed that the fake disappearance was Olivia's idea. The affair was also because Olivia seduced him. Edward even attached screenshots of their chat. Olivia had sent him lingerie photos late at night, asking if he thought they looked good. The screenshots sparked a huge uproar. Olivia was mercilessly criticized online. Even her family's restaurant was deliberately harassed and disrupted. Olivia panicked. She defended herself. "We've known each other since we were kids. In his eyes, I'm just a boy, there's no intentional seduction." Unexpectedly, this defense made netizens even more dissatisfied. "How disgusting, when you two were rolling in bed, why didn't you say you were a boy?" The most annoying thing is opposite-sex friendships without boundaries. Advice to girls, don't date guys with small cliques. Olivia lost her job and had nowhere to turn, so she came to ask Galen for help. The day she came to see him, I was there too. Seeing Olivia's haggard and anxious face on the video doorbell, Galen didn't open the door for her. Instead, he asked me, "Should we see her?" "It's up to you." "Yes, of course. Let's see what she has to say." "All right." I retreated to the room to give them space to talk. But the soundproofing wasn't great. Their conversation reached my ears. Olivia spoke with a sob in her voice, "Galen, you're the only one who can help me now." Galen responded indifferently, "How can I help you? I know you're with Lydia Medwin." "Yes. You're just playing around with her, right? Your family background is much better than ours. There's no way you'd be interested in someone as ordinary as Lydia Medwin." "What do you mean by ordinary?" Galen asked coldly. "We're all ordinary people, Olivia Swales." At this point, what are you still so proud of? Olivia was taken aback, not daring to contradict him. In short, you just need to come forward and say that all of this was Lydia's doing. That she orchestrated it all to have an affair with you. If you do this, I'll introduce you to someone even prettier. Galen sneered, "In your dreams." Olivia became anxious. "Aren't we good friends?" "No, Lydia, no friendship with you." "Well, what?" "Didn't understand?" Let me make it clear. Back then, it was because of Lydia that I joined your hypocritical little group. At this, not only was Olivia shocked, I was also very surprised. Galen continued slowly. I met Lydia in my freshman year and was deeply impressed by her. Unfortunately, at that time, I didn't get the chance to ask for her name and contact information. When I saw her again, she was already with Edward Phipson. Olivia gasped, "You joined us just to..." "Yes, to find an opportunity to steal her away." "You're crazy. They've been together for 2 years. I waited for 2 years too." Galen showed a proud smile. "Hard work pays off. I finally got this chance." "So, when you agreed to help Edward cover up, it was actually..." Galen nodded. "On the surface, it was to return a favor to Edward Phipson. But in reality, I had my own plan from the start. In this grand farce, everyone had their own agenda. Only Galen hid his until the end." Olivia's face turned pale. "Galen, you're so scheming." "Same to you." After Olivia left, I crossed my arms and said to Galen, "Well, you even hid it from me. If I didn't hide it from you, how could I steal you away?" "What do you mean?" Galen looked a bit helpless. "On the surface, I'm Edward's good buddy. If I had come clean with you earlier, you wouldn't have considered me at all. So, I thought, let me be the bad guy. I took the initiative to seduce you, make you fall for me, all the blame would be on me." Galen appeared in my life as a repentant person, taking care of me in every detail, pretending to inadvertently show off his good physique. Without anyone knowing, he performed a solo competition. "What if your plan ultimately failed?" I asked. "That wouldn't matter." Galen smiled gently. "At least I was there to accompany you when you were sad, and that's enough." Olivia was all alone and had to flee from City A in a sorry state. Her family's business had taken a severe hit, and their funds had dwindled. She could no longer be the pampered young lady she once was. But I wasn't satisfied. Clearly, the mistake was made by 2 people together. Why should Edward Phipson get away scot-free? I didn't have any dirt on Edward myself, but I believed that someone must have. Those friends who were once close to him must know something. So I found Olivia's social media account. I sent her an anonymous private message. "Poor girl. It's clearly that scumbag's fault. Why should you take all the blame alone? Olivia, don't let that scumbag get away. I'm supporting you. At some point, I can be two-faced." As I expected, Olivia was isolated and helpless, but as soon as she got a bit of support, she would go berserk accurately. She started posting evidence of Edward bullying classmates like crazy. That was from their middle school days. Edward had broken a boy's arm. In the end, the Phipson family threw a few $1,000s to settle the matter. That year, Edward was even named an exemplary student. Originally, this kind of revelation might not have gained much attention. But just then, the Phipson family's clothing brand had just finished a business battle. Their rival company saw this as a perfect opportunity. They immediately bought traffic and trending searches for Olivia's revelations. Thus, Edward's good guy facade shattered completely. Things escalated quickly. More and more people came forward to accuse Edward Phipson. He basically had no chance of turning things around. Coincidentally, Edward had a younger brother. Seeing the situation, the Phipson family quickly abandoned the elder son and focused on the younger. Without his family's protection, Edward fell from grace. He spent his days in a drunken stupor. He had always been a heavy drinker. I had tried to persuade him to cut back many times, but he found me annoying. Now, he finally fell victim to alcohol. One night, a drunken Edward was hit by a speeding car. He injured a leg. The doctor said he would limp for the rest of his life. After the accident, the traffic police checked the surveillance footage. It was Edward who had violated traffic rules, running a red light and jaywalking, so the driver was not held responsible. A few days later, an unexpected visitor arrived. It was Edward's parents. I wasn't unfamiliar with his parents, we had met before. However, his parents were both smiling tigers. Outwardly kind, but they looked down on my background and helped Edward play his games. I didn't expect them to come begging now. Lydia, dear, wasn't I always good to you? I smiled. Please, say what you came to say. Edward did make a mistake, and we have severely criticized him, but you see, we and our company are all innocent. What do you mean? Can you write a letter of understanding? Just say it's all in the past and you won't hold it against him anymore. I wanted to laugh. How thick-skinned did they have to be to make such a request? But I had a plan. I sniffled a couple of times, and soon my eyes were brimming with tears. Mr. and Mrs. Phipson, I know you've always been good to me, and I don't want to drag you down. But Edward hurt me so badly. I've been having nightmares these days, and my friends are suggesting I see a therapist. My tears fell like they were free, streaming down my face. Mr. and Mrs. Phipson, I'm really suffering, I'm in so much pain. I loved him so much, how could he deceive me? Yes, it's all Edward's fault. The two of them exchanged a glance. Lydia, how about we give you some compensation? How much do you want? I shook my head in horror. Absolutely not, I don't want money. What a joke, if I asked for money, it would be extortion. 200,000? This isn't something money can solve. 400,000? Mrs. Phipson, my feelings for Edward can't be measured in money. 500,000. I sighed. I should go see a therapist. I firmly refused to take any money. I just kept emphasizing how severely my mental health had been affected. A day later, my bank account suddenly had an extra $1 million. The note said it was voluntarily given as compensation for emotional distress. I looked at the notification of the deposit and smiled happily. Galen said, "You want money? I can give it to you too. It's different. This is what I deserve." Whether it was Edward or Galen, I never coveted their family background or money. But what should belong to me, I will never shy away from. What are you going to do next? Galen asked. Are you really going to forgive them? Yes, of course, since I've taken their money. This bit of morality must still be upheld. I directly recorded a video of my forgiveness. However, in the video, I cried again and again. I said I forgave them, but my tears kept flowing. I made sure that when this forgiveness video was released, Edward would not get any sympathy from netizens. In the past, Edward disliked how I cried a lot. But he didn't know. I cry because I have naturally active tear glands and am emotionally expressive. It doesn't mean my heart is weak. On the day Christmas arrived, Galen and I were walking down the street, holding hands. He suddenly stopped and pointed to the milk tea shop ahead. The first time I saw you was there. That was the milk tea shop where I worked during my first year of college. I was very tired that day and went to the shop to sit for a while. You brought me a cup of hot water. Galen remembered that day, a soft smile appearing at the corner of his eyes. You said it was okay not to buy milk tea, the boss had already left, and I could rest there without worry. I touched my nose. I remember, I thought you couldn't afford the milk tea at that time. Who knew you were rich enough to buy our entire shop? Galen laughed out loud. Then you grabbed some snacks to feed the stray cats at the door. I still remember that scene to this day. But later, when he came back to the milk tea shop to formally introduce himself to me, I had already quit my part-time job. After going around in circles, he finally found me. But I had become Edward's girlfriend. Galen didn't say anything that day. He just lowered his eyes, feeling bitter, standing alone. For the past 2 years, he watched me act cute and hug Edward. But that wasn't the most painful part. The most painful part was that Edward didn't cherish me. The person Galen saw as a treasure, someone hard to reach, was treated by Edward as an annoying trinket. He struggled between morality and emotion. Finally, Edward handed the opportunity to him on a silver platter. This time, to hell with morality. Galen thought, even if he was scolded to death, he had to try. I couldn't help but sigh. Galen, with this perseverance, you can succeed in anything you do. Yes. He looked at me seriously. So, will you take me to study abroad with you? I was stunned for a moment. How did you know? I need the money from the Phipson family because I want to study abroad. I want to learn more knowledge. To see a broader world. After receiving the money, I sent an email to my desired mentor abroad. Unexpectedly, the mentor was very interested in my undergraduate experience. Because I had worked a lot and participated in many social practices. They like students like that. The mentor is willing to accept me, just waiting for the start of the new school year next year. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hide it from you, I just didn't know how to tell you. Lydia, in front of me, you don't need to have any concerns. Galen kissed my hand, very devoutly. I'm very familiar with Country U, I used to go there often, it's just a matter of buying a ticket. If you don't mind, I'd rather accompany you as a study partner. My eyes lit up, really? You've eaten my cooking, are you afraid I can't take good care of you? No, I'm just worried that accompanying me might waste your time. Galen shook his head, my parents are planning to hand over the business in Country U to me recently. Then it's settled. Lydia, do you want to meet my parents? It's too early. Thinking of Edward's parents' disapproval of me, I felt a bit timid. Galen saw through my thoughts. I've already mentioned you to my parents, they all like you. You like braised fish, my mom was afraid I wouldn't cook it well, so she taught me personally. We talked about our daily lives. Holding hands. Walking through the first snow of the year. 9 months later. Galen and I boarded a plane to Country U together. My parents and Galen's parents came to see us off. Galen's dad kept instructing him. When you get there, you must take good care of Lydia, cook her favorite food. And if you run out of money, let me know, I'll send it to you. The Winder family is indeed wealthy. Galen's mom was also busy. Have you packed everything? Lydia, if Galen bullies you, tell me, and I'll rush to Country U to beat him up. Don't feel pressured, just focus on your studies. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Winder. Mom, Dad, we're leaving. The weather is clear today, perfect for flying. I'm heading towards a better future. With my loved one by my side. Everything is just right. May we never be bound by labels. Whether weak or a crybaby. As long as we are brave at heart, we will always shine.